All right, welcome to another installment of People Behind the Science from the Microbiology of the Built Environment Sloan Project. So I'm here with James Scott, who's from Toronto?
Yes, the University of Toronto.
University of Toronto. And he is a new Sloan grantee. So, James, how did you become interested in microbiology of the built environment?
It's a good question. I've been interested in microbiology of the built environment for a long time. My doctoral thesis from about 1995 to 2000 was on fungi and house dust.
Wow.
I had an interest, I guess, that sort of predated the large amount of interest that was garnered around microbes in the built environment by the Cleveland baby deaths and black fungus and that kind of thing in the mid-1990s. So no, I've had a long interest in microbes in the built environment, and that has mostly arisen because it's an area that's long been lacking in scientific exploration. You know, we have, particularly now, all of these very sophisticated tools to query communities, assemblages in different systems. And historically, scientists haven't applied those kinds of levels of examination to systems that are thought to be artificial systems, like the buildings that we build or the crops that we grow, things like that. So, you know, I've found it a very fertile area of scientific inquiry since my doctoral studies, and you know, that's obviously held up by the level of interest through the Sloan Foundation and the other grantees.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. So I'm a deep sea biologist, and deep sea biology still doesn't have a strong history of molecular tools. So it's funny that, you know, we have all these resources at our disposal, and there's some environments which we just don't apply them to, really. Can you tell me a little bit about the new Sloan project you'll be working on?
Sure. The project that we're working on looks at using some of these very sophisticated tools, high-throughput sequence-based reconstructions of microbial communities, to try to understand what microbes colonize failed building materials that are subject to moisture damage, and along what timeline, and to try to use that information to develop better tests for resistance of building materials to microbial growth. That's certainly an area right now that's very expensive. Annually in the United States alone, just based on numbers from 2011, $400 billion were spent on construction materials.
Wow.
And of that $400 billion, approximately 1% of it related to drywall. So $4 billion. That's a lot of money. And how those materials are bought and sold in that industry is largely driven by how resistant they are to microbial attack. It's the reason that we use green drywall in our bathrooms and white drywall in our living rooms, because we perceive that certain of those products are more suitable for situations where they may be subject to greater moisture loads than others. So it's a very important problem. The difficulty is that the standard methods that we have at our disposal for determining how resistant a material is, they don't really work very well. They don't predict the actual resistance of those materials when they're in built structures. So that's what we're hoping through this project to improve.
So how are you getting along? Have you gotten any results or analyzed any data yet?
Well, we're on day 16. So we were funded as of October 1st this year,
okay.
And we're 16 days in. We have our team. I have a postdoc and a tech in my laboratory who are starting to look at this, and we're right now in the very early phases, which is one of my interests in having very early meetings with other Sloan investigators to try to get started on the right foot, to know that we're sequencing loci that are going to be meaningful loci, both for our purposes as well as providing data that can be integrated into larger studies for meta-analyses down the road, and also to help us understand what we need to do in order to be able to satisfy our data analytical needs down the road. So I'm hoping that I can have some of those discussions with the other Sloan researchers and make sure that we start this in the best possible way.
Yeah, definitely. And even amongst the bioinformatics community, the issue of what loci do you choose, what primer sets is an open question. So it's definitely not an easy choice to make in projects like this. So what's your favorite aspect or approach to studying the built environment?
It's a good question. I guess I've always felt that a lot can be learned by observation, by careful observation. And we're really in a place in science, particularly in the Western world, where much of our science is hypothesis-driven. And in fact, that's a paradigm that works very well for all kinds of investigation. And in some ways, it's sort of leveraged science out of the dark age. But at some cost, because there really is a lot that can be learned by careful, patient observation of systems. So I tend to like to integrate both approaches, but I like to inform my hypotheses by that kind of careful observation that I described. So I like to have some sense of how a system works, how a system functions, before I come into an investigation of it.
Right, and even exploring data in novel ways. I mean, with these diverse environments, you never know what you're going to find. So it's hard to generate a hypothesis if you didn't even know an organism or some sort of community assemblage was happening. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So let's finish off. What's one big scientific question you think that's present right now in the study of the built environment?
Well, because in many ways it is a new area, and it's an area that touches on a vast diversity of disciplines. My background, of course, is as a microbiologist, but my doctoral minor was in industrial hygiene, so I have some knowledge of sampling methods as they're applied to constructed environments and workplace environments and that sort of thing, and I have some knowledge of the biological aspects of these kinds of issues. But so much depends, as we hear from other Sloan investigators, on a very deep appreciation of some of the engineering issues or the architectural issues. So one of the challenges that I see, and it's a challenge that's certainly not insurmountable, but it's going to require a great effort of all of our Sloan investigators, but as well the broader community of scientists doing this to pull together, and that is to try and bridge these multidisciplinary gaps so that we actually can build teams of investigators to be able to scrutinize these problems, because it really is only, I think, through building those kinds of teams that we're likely to be able to leverage these opportunities to answer the really difficult problems. It's not science that can be done as a single investigator science. It's really team-driven science.
Right, and there are plenty of barriers, like just jargon between different disciplines. It can be a surprising hindrance to actually, getting things done and having people talk to each other.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for joining us, and stay tuned for more interviews.
It's been my pleasure.